Arr! Do you feel like reading a book? How about Pirate Pete's Giant Adventure by Kim Kennedy, illustrated by Doug Kennedy. But wait, you little pirate you. Before we begin, there's something you should know when you hear this sound. That means turn the page, turn the page. Are you ready to begin? Then let's walk the plank. Hoist the sails, shouted Pirate Pete. Avast ye! Wake up, squawked the parrot. You're dreaming again. Pete opened his eyes. The parrot was right. They were still adrift at sea in their little rowboats. They were getting nowhere fast, and Pete knew it. Oh, I wish I had the ship, moaned Pete. Why, I'd do anything for a ship. Just then, the waves began to shimmer. In a splash of foam, a sea-fairy appeared. I'll grant your wish for a ship, she offered, if you go on a special quest. What might that be, little matey? Asked Pete. Go to Thunder Island, she said, and find the Sea-Fairy Sapphire. Pete had heard of the Sea-Fairy Sapphire. It was a magical stone that had been stolen from the Sea-Fairy Kingdom. Return the sapphire to the ocean, she instructed, and you will be rewarded with a wondrous ship. I'll do it, agreed Pete. But how will I find the Sea-Fairy Sapphire without a map? Just follow the sound of thunder, said the fairy. But be aware, for thunder does not always come from clouds. Then she disappeared. A brisk wind began to blow, and the little rowboat traveled swiftly. Soon, over the sound of the breeze, came the rumbling of thunder. Pete laid a hand on his ear, then checked his spyglass. "Land ho!" cried Pete. "Thunder Island, straight ahead!" They had just come ashore when boom! Claps of thunder rolled. "'Tis coming from the other side of the island," said the parrot. So off they marched through the palm trees, with Pete banging coconuts and singing. When I find the Sea-Fairy Sapphire, I'll get a ship of wonder. All I got to do is follow the sound of thunder. By and by, they came to the heart of the island. "What a strange-looking lagoon," said the parrot. "And with all this thunder, why does it never rain?" Boom! Another rumbling sounded. Pete picked up his pace and cried, "When I find the Sea-Fairy Sapphire, I'll get my ship of wonder. All I got to do is follow the sound of thunder." Boom, boom! "'Tis getting louder," said the parrot. "We must be near." Pete looked through his spyglass. He could see something sparkling on a hill up ahead. "I see it," said Pete. "I seize the Sea-Fairy Sapphire." Soon they came across a cave, and Pete stumbled in. He grabbed the glimmering blue jewel. "Why, 'twas easy," Pete cried. "Quick, throw it into the sea," said the parrot. "Then we'll get our ship." "Not so fast," said Pete. "This here is a magical wishing stone. Let's see what it can do." Pete stared into the glittering stone and commanded, "Give me a treasure map to the world's greatest treasures." The stone glowed a bright blue, and in a swirl of sea mist, a map appeared. Pete tucked it into his coat. "That's enough," said the parrot. "Throw the sapphire into the sea." "Another thing," Pete told the stone. "I want the world's mightiest sword." The sapphire glowed even brighter, and a splendid sword appeared. "That's enough," squawked the parrot. "Now throw the sapphire into the sea so we can get our ship." "All right," grumbled Pete. But as they left the cave, a terrific crash shook the ground. Boom, boom, boom! Pete and his parrot looked up. Up. A giant! The parrot flapped. The thunder had been coming from a giant's big feet, stomping about. "Aye," gulped Pete, looking up at the big brutes. "So, he's the scurvy dog that horn-waggled the sapphire from the sea fairies." The giant caught a whiff of Pete and snatched him up. "I knew I smelled a pirate," he bellowed. "A stinky pirate." "Arr! Not as stinky as you be," growled Pete. "Oh, but you're salty too," snarled the giant. Suddenly, he saw the sapphire tucked in Pete's hand. "Trying to sneak the sapphire from me. Aye," he grumbled. The giant drew Pete even closer so that Pete could smell the stink of old seaweed on his breath. "Do you know what I do to sneaky pirates?" "Nay," Pete said. "I yank off their hooks," roared the giant, shaking the ground with his mighty voice. With the giant's fingers wrapped tightly around him, Pete knew there was no chance for escape, but perhaps he could outsmart him. "Ye can yank off me hook if you wish," Pete said. "Ye can use it to catch a big mackerel fish, but just don't throw me into the sea." The giant blinked, a bit puzzled. "What? A pirate afraid of the sea?" He scratched his head. "Forget your hook," the giant decided. "I'm going to pull off your peg leg." "Ye can pull off me peg leg if you like," said Pete. "Ye can use it as a toothpick, but just don't throw me into the sea." "I'll use it as a toothpick, all right," snorted the giant. "After I eat ye, that is." "Ye can eat me if you please," said Pete. "Ye can boil me up in a big pot of pirate stew, but just don't throw me into the sea." "Ye really afraid of that sea, aren't you?" said the giant, a glint of mischief in his eye. "Well then, how about a little swim?" With that, the giant hurled Pete into the sky. Clinging tightly to the sapphire, Pete flew into the clouds and then back down to the sea, where he landed with a great splash. Suddenly, the waves began to churn and bubble. Then up from the deep, an amazing ship arose with Pirate Pete aboard. "You tricked me," shouted the giant as he plowed into the water and grabbed the ship's anchor. "We're doomed," squawked the parrot. "He's pulling us in." "The sapphire can't save you now," the giant laughed. "Nay," said Pete, "but me mighty sword can." "Now for a bit of me own thunder," Pete shouted. "Fire cannon!" With a tremendous boom, a cannonball shot from the ship, sending the giant fleeing back to the shore. Then a mighty wind filled the ship's sails, and off she went, far and away from Thunder Island. The sea fairies had fulfilled their promise indeed. Pete's new vessel was the most wondrous ship to ever sail the high seas. "Fine sailing weather," cheered the parrot. "Aye!" cried Pete, unfurling his new treasure map, and with a gleam in his eye, he sang, "I found the Sea-Fairy Sapphire, and I got me a ship of wonder. I'm off again to distant lands, where there's jolly good treasure to plunder."